Start off, though, with that WeWork news, of course, sort of trickling out yesterday after the close, a delay in the planned public offering that has been so, such a focus over these last few weeks as the price, at least that WeWork thought it would actually get for its shares, has rapidly declined over concerns about its business model, over concerns about governance, really ever since they actually issued the S-1, which Mr. Kramer here didn't really take a real fancy to. But a lot of this also goes back to Mr. Adam Neumann, of course, the man who founded the company and runs it. And this has been a chaotic process. Having reported on it now for a couple of weeks, I can sort of tell you that I've never seen anything quite like this in terms of the disarray in preparing for a public offering. And I guess what was clear and perhaps finally made clear to them was they weren't ready. They just were not ready to actually face potential shareholders at this point. One wonders why, for example, they didn't clear up all the governance issues a long time ago prior to filing that S-1, but instead have dribbled them out as they did late last week with significant changes that were designed, of course, to enhance the offering. They weren't able to get there, at least not at a price that they were willing to accept. And let me tell you, I had thought perhaps that some of this delay was due to increased tension between WeWork's largest shareholder, SoftBank, led by Masa, and Mr. Neumann. That, however, does not appear to really be the case, although we'll never know, or at least I may never know the full story at this point. But my understanding, guys, is that SoftBank was willing to come in with $1 billion parallel private placement that they were going to go in for at the IPO price, whatever that would have been. And then they would have had their warrants. Remember the warrants that they received when they did that deal earlier this year that valued this company at $47 billion. They got warrants. Those would have been repriced to the IPO price. So Masa would have gotten something for playing here. It would have left $2 billion on the table for WeWork to raise in the public markets. But even so, even at $2 billion, apparently they were unable to at least find a deep enough market at a price they were willing to sell at. And so they're going to wait. And the question becomes, well, is waiting really going to help? Is 30 days enough for them to get their act together, for perhaps Mr. Neumann to listen to the advice he's given in a more significant way by those who are giving it? They're going to report a quarter, or at least update their S-1 filing with new numbers from their third quarter. From what I hear, those numbers are expected to be quite strong. Perhaps they'll be able to get a narrative around that and the growth in the business, Jim. But it's been it's been just a series of missteps here. Easy to say, of course, when you're forced to delay something like this, but I have to say, in reporting on it and talking to many people around it, everybody's thrown their hands up.
Well, I mean, look, you've got a situation where he gives a new name to the company that's worse than the name, takes money, takes stock, and then has to break that and take it back. You have the $700 million that was taken out in loans and stock sales. And all you can possibly think of is this is some private company where, I mean, it's like a mom and pop company that's trying to bring it to a $3 billion deal. I think that if there is such a thing as corporate governance, it certainly seems to evade the thinking of Mr. Neumann.
Right. Now, corporate governance doesn't know. I mean, listen, Snap went public with terrible governance, no votes whatsoever. Investors seem to put those things aside when they feel like the business model makes sense and they feel as though there's an opportunity to make money.
Right.
And so I think you have to twin it here. It was both the lack of governance coupled with the concerns about the overall business model.
I've never heard. Look, you read the articles. I read the articles. I Googled every article, but there are many articles that just say it's worthless. I mean, it's a highly unusual thing to read articles that say the company's worthless if it doesn't get the money. That's amazing to me.
They burn through a lot of money, but there are many people who also continue to believe in the business model, including, of course, the most significant technology investor of all time, Mr. Masa.
Well, I just think that this is one that the market just rebelled against. I know I was calling for that. I just said, if there it, yeah.
You were.
I said, listen, this deal has to be stopped.
So what needs to change to get this to market, I don't know, in October or by the end of the year?
Well, I think that you have to see some increase in the margins. I think you have to see an acceleration of revenue growth. You have to believe that there is a path.
In the next, 8 weeks?
Well, it seems unlikely, although, again, these third quarter numbers may be something they can hang on.
Maybe they have that. sometimes when you do these deals, there is something in your pocket that makes it so that you want to be in it.
But some of it also may come down to just, I mean, there are certain processes you go through to come to market with your company, and they didn't seem to really follow any traditional playbook or rules. And everything I've heard is that Mr. Neumann was not necessarily taking advice from those who were in a position with the experience to actually give it that might have been worthwhile.
Well, but anyone who knows Mr. Neumann knows that he's kind of a blast. Does what he wants.
Yes, he does.
And he's freewheeler.
And it's gone well so far. I mean, heck, in January he had a $47 billion market value.
Yeah,
he's the king.
He is the king. He's the king. He's the king. But I have to tell you that the king, in this case, had no clothes. I mean, the market just doesn't want it. You know, you may change, David, you could change the name of the dog food. You can put new and improved on it. But if the dogs won't eat it, there's nothing you can do. That's true. They don't know about new and improved.
No.
They just see it and they say, you know what, this smells bad.
I've seen that happen.
Fresh pet.